all-new episode of Dun 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 Scandal Queens. I'm the host you love or love to hate, EB, and we are back to close out the story we started last week. That's right, Katy Perry, one of pop's darkest leading ladies. In the last episode, we went through a timeline of Katy's most problematic moments, and today, you and I, we're going even deeper. The waters are going to get even darker because you can't get the whole picture of a person just by looking at a timeline of events. Does that give us a picture? Yeah, sure, it's a place to start, but it's only the surface. If you really want to know who Katy Perry is, if you really want to know what she thinks, if you really want to know how she moves, what she believes in, then you have to look at everything, not just the headlines, not just what she's done, but who she surrounds herself with. Then and only then, in my personal belief, can you begin to see the full image of Katy Perry, what she is and what she isn't. And in that, I think you can find one of the biggest glaring flaws in the whole mix, and that is, again, in my personal opinion, narcissism. That's what all of this really comes down to, and it's why I spend so much time harping on these celebrities. It's because these celebrities are narcissists. They are narcissistic people, and when you fall in love with them, when you buy into their lies, when you fight people on the internet for them, you're doing nothing more than making yourself more susceptible to narcissistic abuse. These fantasy relationships that people have with celebrities, really their marketing teams, are making them more prone to like real, actual narcissistic abuse in their real lives. And all of us were being conditioned to normalize and accept manipulative, coercive, and harmful behaviors. And at this moment in time, we're kind of at this crossroads as a society, right? Where this isn't acceptable anymore. Everything bad and wrong and corrupted in this world can be traced back to one singular evil in the human psyche, time and time again. Narcissism. Narcissists and narcissism is the root of everything bad in this world. You hate Donald Trump? Narcissism. You hate Taylor Swift? Narcissism. You hate Joseph Stalin? Narcissism. The genocidal psychopaths overseas who are right now destroying our world, making everything more expensive and awful and terrible. All of these are reflections of the same narcissistic relationships that you and I have in our personal lives. They're different shades, they're different sizes, but they're the same lies. It's the same manipulation. It's the same abuse. And that's why it's so important that we analyze the behavior of these celebrities and deconstruct the actions of someone who's seemingly even as unimportant as Katy Perry. Because it really is that deep, right? It really is. People like Katy Perry are running the world. People like Katy Perry are making choices that affect your everyday life, and they will continue to do that. I mean, she's literally putting money in the pockets of these people, and she'll continue doing that until you stop worshiping her and people like her. And that's what we're going to get into today, okay? That's really what I want you to get out of this big final push in this saga that we've been unraveling with all of Katy Perry's like dark, problematic, awful connections in history. That's the point. Katy Perry, the troubling connections around her, Dr. Luke, narcissistic behaviors, her ties to the Catholic Archdiocese of Los Angeles. This is all the stuff that she doesn't want you to see, that her marketing team keeps away from you on purpose. On purpose, because if you were shown all of these things, if all of these things were laid out on the table as much as her fake space flights, you wouldn't buy her stuff anymore because you would see who she really is. Before we get into this last leg, though, let's have a quick temperature check on what's going on with your favorite Hollywood celebrities. What kind of trouble are they getting themselves into now? Right off the top, Jacob Elordi is out. Sorry, ladies, he's fucking out. Like, he is hard out now. He's out of the game. He's gross. He's ick. Today is Wednesday, April 22nd, and news broke basically this morning / yesterday, the 21st, that Jacob Elordi is dating Kendall Jenner. Yeah. We don't fuck around with trafficking families and fraudsters and criminals, but that's what Jacob Elordi wants to do because, again, it's now been officially put out there that for months he has been dating one of the Kardashian Jenner sisters. Now, according to Page 6, who's the one that I saw break the story this morning, the two were introduced via Kylie Jenner, who Jacob Elordi is apparently friends with. Double fucking yikes. Not only is he dating Kendall Jenner, which you could almost kind of get away with that, right? Because she seems like the most decent of the clan, right? She seems like it. So you would be like, at first you'd be like, oh, that's not so bad. But then you find out he was friends with Kylie, and Kylie introduced them. That Kylie Jenner who forged tax documents to look like a billionaire, according to Forbes magazine, look it up, and the one who just got sued for being racist and mistreating her landscapers, threatening to deport them, underpaying them, working them long hours, etc., etc., etc. Basically the same thing her sister got sued for by landscapers as well a few years ago. You know, the underage ones that she wasn't paying and she was making work past when they were supposed to work because they were minors. Yeah, so these women who don't like to pay their employees, who like to racially disparage them, threaten them with deportation in the age of ICE, that is apparently who Jacob Elordi is hanging out with. Oh, and they're also, that family, they're raging Zionists, just got a bunch of money to open stores in Israel. And that's who he wants to hang out with. So yeah, disappointing. Jacob Elordi is a scumbag, and he clearly doesn't care about his career because the Kardashian curse is real. My friend, any man who signs up to be a part of that family is destroyed. He crashes and burns in spectacular ways. So, you know, I hope you enjoyed your Guillermo del Toro movie there, Jacob, because that'll be the last decent film you see. And between this and Euphoria, sorry, it's out. If I hear someone say, I love Jacob Elordi, cringe, gross. He has downgraded himself now to skeezy frat boy. Like, he gives roofie vibes now. It's very ick. Next up on the chopping block, Lena Dunham is forcing herself on us once again, like she has forced herself on people in the past. Cough, cough. That's right. Lena Dunham is forcing herself down our throats again. This has been all over mainstream media. You've probably seen it everywhere. She's going on and on about some new memoir she's got and how special she is. And she's talking about how she's living this like really wonderful, quiet life, quote unquote, in London, right? She says, I'm living a quiet life in London. She gets photographed with 2 pigs. She's got 2 pigs living in her house. So let me tell you, as someone who lives in the UK, that's not a quiet life if you're walking around with pigs in London, okay? You have a pathological need for attention, and your British neighbors for sure, if she's got British neighbors. She might have like some Russian billionaire neighbors or something, but real English people are not going to be super thrilled about living in the city next to someone with 2 pet pigs, quote unquote mini pigs, by the way, who she'll no doubtedly dump and abandon somewhere once they are no longer mini, because mini pigs get to be like 130 pounds. Anyway, I digress. With Lena Dunham, I genuinely don't know how a rich girl the same age as me has published multiple memoirs and gotten a TV show. Like, you're just a few years older than me. What the fuck do you think you have to say? And you've never struggled for anything in your life. You know, that's like one of my biggest itches with this whole thing. Like, what kind of arrogant twat do you have to be to write multiple memoirs about your charm-funded life in the biggest cities in the world? Like, bitch, do you have a single working class friend? Do you know how tone deaf this is? I know she won't listen to this podcast, but like, I wish she would. You'd be like, Lena, get a fucking grip, girlfriend. Can you read a fucking room? My second biggest question is, how? How does Lena keep getting book deals when no one gives a fuck about her at best, or hate her at worst? You know what I mean? Like, no one ever has good things to say about her. And I can promise you, the people who hate her will watch TikTok videos about her, but they're not going to go and spend 20 fucking quid on her book. It's just not going to happen. So at this point, she is so gratuitously shoved down our throats that I'm genuinely starting to wonder, what's the deal? Right? Is Lena Dunham running some midnight climax style Epstonian blackmail ring that we don't know about? Has she like incriminated? Does she have like incriminating photos of like the owners of these publisher companies? What's going on? How does she keep getting book deals? Because Jesus Christ, it's the most self-indulgent derivative tripe I've ever heard. And it was already questionable back in the peak of millennialism when she was in Girls, right? Which I watched all of Girls. She was the most hated character in that thing, right? The whole thing stinks. The whole thing stinks. Her story stinks. The way she interacted with her sister as a child, the way she wrote about it's disgusting. I don't want to read any more shit from her. And I especially don't want to hear her complain about Adam Driver. You know, like, I believe victims, but I also believe that I would punch a wall if I had to work with Lena Dunham. So I'm 100% sure sooner or later we'll find the root of Lena's success and what it actually is, because I don't for a second think it's based on merit or talent. But yeah, she's insufferable. Lena Dunham is being insufferable again. And last but not least, this is going to be the last little segment of Temperature Check. It's going to be a little bit longer than normal. Just bear with me. But Meghan Markle is back on the trail. Yes, I am going to be talking about Meghan Markle, someone I do not talk about very often. As the royal family flounders, Meghan and Harry are back on the marketing trail, promoting mental health and her new range of candles, centered, honestly, troublingly, around her children and her children's names. Don't love that. But before I go any further in this, I want to make this explicitly clear about everything I say from here on out. I 100% believe and support the idea that Meghan Markle has been treated with racist brutality since day one. That's a fact. I've never denied it. I've never argued with it. I've never had to watch a think piece on it. I saw it happen in real time. However, that does not mean she's a perfect person, and there's still some red flags for me, not just around her, but around Harry and the rest of the family as well, right? Because, the Prince Andrew of it all. So, here's what troubles me, but I wanted to get that out first. Like, she's 100% been treated racist. 100%. And I'm not about to say she's a narcissist or anything like that, because I don't think I'm qualified to make that judgment when it comes to a black woman in the public eye. You can go and listen to black therapists and psychologists who have talked about this if you'd like. But there are some things in recent news with her on this marketing trail that have kind of given me red flags. Number one, the first thing I didn't like when I was reading the article on page 6, which was super flattering. It was actually like really positive about her. The biggest thing that troubled me is that Meghan and Harry have now trademarked their children's names. And them trademarking the names and her launching these candles, which are named after her children, kind of have people speculating that she's about to launch part of the brand that heavily features both the children's names and faces, basically going to capitalize on their quote-unquote lifestyle. They're going to be used as marketing props for Meghan's brand. I shouldn't need to explain how troubling this is, okay? When we say don't put your kids on the internet, that also includes don't put your kids in international marketing campaigns and on global platforms with their faces and their names and their alleged lifestyles and everything about them, okay? It's problematic. Using your kids as a marketing device is fucking problematic. And for a woman who has rightfully, right, Meghan has rightfully repeatedly expressed how unsafe she has been made to feel, how disrespected she has been made to feel. And so it's kind of absurd that she's now putting her baby children. I mean, these kids are basically toddlers, right? And she's now like putting her toddlers, exposing them needlessly to that same level of abuse and danger that she got. Because make no mistake, no matter what those children look like, everyone who was racist to her is going to be racist to those babies. Okay? And those babies have no ability to consent. And they will not, for over a decade, they will have no concept of what is going on and what this really means, okay? So there's no reason that Meghan needs to expose those babies to the vitriol of the public. If it was me and I had been treated the way Meghan's been treated, I wouldn't even give the fucking public a name. Not a single thing. And the only reason I feel like someone like Meghan, who does have all of the opportunities and platform and everything in the world, the only reason that she would then use her children as marketing props is to earn more money. So to me, that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. Now, my second big problem, the whole Meghan and Harry thing, is that every time they get in the public eye, there's this general sentiment that people start kind of buying into, specifically they're the good royals. And just let me make this perfectly clear, there are no good royals. Okay, Meghan and Harry were still having lunches and dinners with Prince Andrew until like a year ago. Okay, they were still coming over to the UK and having lunches and dinners with him. So that is years after his behavior was already established. The Epstein thing was already a wide established story. The Queen had already paid £8 million years ago to cover all this up. The family knew about this. They knew who he was. Okay, they were still having lunch with him. And they knew that all that info was out there, that he was a pedophile. So just because Harry and Meghan have given up some titles, which mean nothing, they mean nothing because they still have a ton of money. They have a palace. They have servants. They have all of that crap. Just because they've given up some title doesn't make them good people. They are still rubbing elbows with the same people, doing the same things. They are keeping quiet about injustices. They're not fighting for the working class. Meghan didn't even say anything about Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor had just been murdered in her bed when Meghan Markle went and sat on Oprah and said, I felt really unsafe with the royal family because they were racist to me, when she could have sat on Oprah on her platform and said, justice for Breonna Taylor. Where's the prison sentence for the people who murdered her? But she didn't. She said nothing. She talked about herself. They don't condemn Trump. They don't condemn ICE. They're just monsters without title. That goes for both of them. That last one, not just for Meghan, that was for both. But my biggest and final problem, I'll try to cover this as quick as possible, is that the Harry and Meghan, their campaigns have suspicious timing to me, okay? Very suspicious timing to me. I have a long-running theory, and it's just a theory. It's just my little imagination. But I have a long-running theory that Harry and Meghan are the dog and pony show for the royals. Let me explain. It comes down to this. essentially, in the simplest thing. The royal family has never been more unpopular. In the UK, when they walk down the street, people scream pedophile at them because of Prince Andrew and because their own associations with like Jimmy Savile et al. And Harry and Meghan prove every time if people get really angry at the royals, Harry and Meghan pop up. And it's suddenly stories of how they're making a stand and they're standing up against the royal, like blah, 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 blah. Basically, look at these good royals. Look at these good royals. And yet at the same time that there's supposedly these quote unquote good royals, they're not going around helping genocide victims like Princess Diana would have been. They're not out like helping famine victims like Princess Diana would have been. And people in crisis, they just go on these like vanity tours where they talk about how they're such victims, but they never talk about the working class or real victims or immigrants or ICE or women's rights or any of that. They're just like, oh, the royal family's mean and people are sad. Give us money. Here's a candle. Like it's just, I don't like it. I think Harry and Meghan, both of them are a marketing department. I think they're still in bed with the family. I think everything about them is fake. And they're all still a part of it. And you hear these stories from staff that they still call them like Duke and Duchess and they have to curtsy to them and treat them with full royal honors at their home in like Toronto. So the whole thing, it just smacks. And I think buying into them as quote unquote good royals is falling for a scam. All right, it's time. The Dark Side of Katy Perry Part 2. Who is she beyond the headlines? We're gonna do it. Let's expose it. Let's get into it. Last time we talked timelines, I went through all the big headlines, all the way back from 2010 with the assault of Ruby Rose, all the way to her current debacles with suing the veteran and her space flight and Bezos and all that kind of stuff. So let's get into the rest of it and shut this chapter of the Katy Perry saga, starting with what I think is probably the most pivotal part of the puzzle: her personal and professional association. Now, it's not going to come as much of a surprise to you guys now, knowing that Katy Perry has like exposed a man's genitals to a room of people, and she's allegedly rubbed her genitals on people and all this other stuff, that she has some really problematic ties. And there's like one theme, there's one common denominator that kind of brings all of these people she's associated with together. So let's just look into it. Let's look at all the problematic connections that Katy's got to this day that go all the way back to the beginning. First off, you have Katy's parents. Maurice Keith Hudson and Christine Perry. They were married in 1979 in Las Vegas. Katy quickly followed, and she was born Catherine Hudson. And guess what? It turns out that both of Katy's parents are evangelical pastors. Yeah, evangelical pastors. Katy described her upbringing as a kid as being strict and religious, but it looks like it was more than that because both of her parents are Pentecostal pastors, evangelical Pentecostal pastors. They own their own church, and according to everything you look up about them, they've spent most of their lives touring the world, delivering sermons. They're evangelical sermons. And wow, doesn't that really reveal a certain something? Because the evangelicals, for those who haven't been raised in America, are religious extremists who have funded Donald Trump and believe that Israel should nuke the world to bring about the end times. Dead ass. That's what they think. They think anybody who's not them should be dead. And they are gleeful about that. They're actively trying to bring that about. These are diabolically dangerous people who literally wants to see like 3/4 of the population killed. Yeah, so they're evil. They're extremely right-wing and active on pushing those beliefs on others. These are the people who, funded Project 2025 and are still funding Donald Trump, which Katy's parents have donated to Donald Trump more than 79 times, at least 79 times. Now, Katy's parents aren't just part of an extremist Christian religion. You might be saying, well, just because they've donated to Trump and they're Pentecostal pastors, that doesn't mean that they're Republicans or anything like that. Well, yes, actually it does. It does, because not only are Katy's parents part of an extremist Christian religion, they are also active politicians. Katy's mother herself is a politician who ran for office in 2023, Republican office in 2023, when they were already putting 2025 in action. They planned to get Donald Trump up there. They planned to get women out of the workforce. They planned to get women out of science, women out of education. They wanted black people to suffer. They wanted brown people to get deported. All of that stuff was openly on the Republican manifesto. And this is what Katy Perry's mother was running for in 2023 to support. Okay? She was running for Central Committee in Santa Barbara, California. And you know what the job of Central Committee is? Pushing Republican values and ideals on people, recruiting more Republicans, getting out there in the community and turning more people in the community into voting Republicans. Dead serious. Dead serious. This woman wants women out of the arts. She wants women out of science. She wants minorities out of science. If she's supporting Donald Trump, this is all the thing that she supports, okay? And Katy has openly said time and time again how much she loves her parents and how close she is with them. She just had them on red carpets with her in 2024, 2025. Okay, where they got a lot more attention, which means they also would have gotten a lot more money that they could donate to Donald Trump. And that puts Katy right in the middle of it. Sorry, not sorry. It's one thing to maintain a distant relationship with your parents who are actively pursuing the destruction of people and a country, but it's another thing to be hugging them, kissing them, giving them money, bringing them on red carpets, giving them a platform to spread more fucking bigotry. More bigotry, more hatred, more ignorance, which is what evangelical Pentecostal people do. And sorry, you can't be cozy with people who think brown and black people aren't equals. You can't do that. You cannot be cozy with people who are actively trying to have concentration camps built in the country and be a good person. That's just not optional. It's not something you can opt into. If you, as in like Katy Perry, were giving millions of dollars to evangelical pastors who are voting for Donald Trump and trying to get into office themselves to enact Republican manifestos, then guess what, honey? You're also an evangelical right-winger. That's what Katy is. And she can get online and say whatever kind of bullshit she wants, whatever kind of marketing spin people put on her. But these are her parents who she remains extremely close to and is definitely giving money to. I mean, like, come on. But honestly, that kind of makes sense, as you'll see as we get into her next relationship. Because once you move on from Katy Perry's parents, the next relationship that you really need to put under a microscope is her relationship with Russell Brand. Yeah. Russell Brand, as you know, who's currently being investigated, held trial for alleged sexual assaults, lots of them. Katy Perry was married to him between 2010 and 2012, and they also were together for some time before that. Now, one of Brand's most vicious alleged assaults, in which a woman was put against a wall and violated while someone else who has remained unnamed was in the room or in the property and was aware of what was happening. This big story that kind of broke open the floodgates with Russell Brand, this happened in 2012 while he was still with Katy Perry. Now, am I saying Katy Perry was there? Absolutely not. But this is the behavior he was engaging in when he was with her. Brand's history of alleged sexual assaults aside, because no, Katy is not responsible for his actions. What is interesting to me is that some of Katy's most grievous alleged sexual offenses that she herself committed, they happened in this window of time. The majority of them happened in this window of time when she was married to Russell Brand. And then one of them, there's 4 sexual assault alleged type incidents, and only one of them happened outside of that window of time. Okay. The assault on Ruby Rose, that happened in 2010 when Katy was freshly married to Russell Brand, when she allegedly rubbed her genitals on Ruby Rose's face, 2010. Justin Bieber groping him, pulling his hips into her hips, that was 2012. Josh Kloss, also 2012, that model whose genitals she exposed. I'm not going to ignore that pattern, because as you'll see, it's a pattern that kind of keeps repeating in a lot of ways. It's extremely interesting to me that Katy Perry was intimately involving herself with someone who was allegedly a prolific sex pest during this time, while she herself was allegedly engaging in what could only be called sex pest behavior. Birds of a feather will flock together. That's what Perry's relationship says to me more than anything else. I don't think Russell Brand was like manipulating her into it either. Remember, she was almost 30 years old when she was with him. We're talking fully developed frontal lobe when this is going on. So I think she and Russell probably got along so well because they had more in common than we like to think. Specifically, the bodies of other people were theirs to do with what they wanted. Now, if you thought alleged rapist Russell Brand was going to be the end of Katy Perry's questionable connections, think again, because no. Katy Perry has one more really problematic connection with alleged rapist Dr. Luke. For those who don't know, Dr. Luke is a big name producer, has produced songs for Katy Perry, Miley Cyrus, Britney Spears, Nicki Minaj, on and on and on, and most notoriously, Kesha. Around 8 years ago, Kesha, who had long been involved with Dr. Luke, came out with just like jaw-dropping allegations. Said Dr. Luke had been subjugating her to years of mental and emotional abuse and that he had raped her as well. She sued Dr. Luke, and that led to a years-long legal battle, which has only recently been completely resolved. Finally, I think there was a lot of back and forth, like he would win, she would win, yada yada yada. But she's finally free of him, and that is solved. However, the taste lingers, right? It lingers when a man has been stamped with that. Fans of Katy have been begging her for years to please stop working with Dr. Luke. She's been working with him all the way back since the beginning, but lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, after years of not being heard from because she was crap, she pops back on the scene in 2024 with the release of her album 143 and this ludicrously pandering single, Woman's World, okay, which shows Katy Perry cosplaying as what I can only describe as Rosie the Riveter if she was imagined by a pimp, okay? The whole thing screamed cheap, it screamed desperate, it screamed narcissist. Katy didn't care. Her fans said, please don't work with this person. She didn't care. All she cared about was herself making money, which she didn't do because she launched a failed tour on this. No one cared about it. It did not nearly do as well as her singles from like the 2010. But honestly, her working with Dr. Luke, the whole thing tracks, right? Because do we really expect that a woman who exposed someone's genitals in a room full of people is going to say no to working with someone who allegedly raped someone else? Do we think that someone who married Russell Brand, okay, a man who was allegedly committing assaults the same time he was with her, like, do you think that woman has a problem making songs with someone who abuses or subjugates women? Maybe here's the better question. Do you think the woman who still cuddles up with her Project 2025 parents is going to do anything to protect women, especially saying no to a producer who promises her money? If I were someone who still listened to Katy Perry, I'd be worried that the music that she produces, along with her personal associations, might actually be created with the express purpose of harming women at this point. But wait, it gets worse. Yeah, you wouldn't think so. You wouldn't think it's going to get worse. But as it turns out, rapist ex-husbands, alleged rapist producers, and Project 2025 evangelical parents aren't the only questionable ties in Katy's skeleton risen, because in 2015, she enlisted the help of the Archdiocese of Los Angeles to harass a group of nuns. One of them which died in court. You remember that? You remember that story I told in the last episode? The one where Katy helped steal a piece of property from the nuns who owned it and bought it themselves with their own money? Well, Katy did that whole lawsuit thing with the help of the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, the diocese that was over the nuns, right? That's who she used to sue these nuns. Now, why is that so bad? Well, it's not just bad because the Archdiocese essentially swindled the nuns out of a property that they owned. It's not just bad because one of those nuns died in court, even though that's horrible. No. The tie between the Archdiocese of Los Angeles and Katy Perry is a lot worse than that. It's a lot worse than that. Now, for you Catholics in the audience, you might recognize that name, the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, as one of the biggest and richest in the country, which it is. It is. There are hundreds of subsidiary businesses under the name of the Archdiocese. It includes schools, parishes, charities, like all this kind of stuff. A good portion of those businesses that are under this Archdiocese makes $30 to $40 million a year, right? Okay, so this Archdiocese of LA makes a ton of money. They make probably billions, okay? They probably make billions, but that's not what people know them for. The Archdiocese of LA is known for its child sex abuse. Not even kidding. Going all the way back to the 1970s, there have been multiple, huge, public, all over the news cases. Actually, it's not even the 1970s, it's the 1930s. What am I talking about? There's a whole Wikipedia page of this. The Archdiocese of Los Angeles, going all the way back to the 1930s, has had hundreds, if not dozens, like just so many scandals, public scandals of children being abused sexually in the church. In 2024, in October of 2024, they actually had to settle this huge landmark suit in which 1,300 victims came forward, and it was judged by the court that these 1,300 victims had been sexually abused, and the Archdiocese of LA knew about it and protected the clergy members that did it. So in 2024, the Archdiocese of Los Angeles was ordered to pay $880 million in settlement damages to all of these survivors who had been sexually abused by their clergy. And then when the judge was going back through it, he realized, oh, actually, you're going to have to pay $1.5 billion because it's more victims than we originally thought. And who did Katy go to pay $14.5 million? The Archdiocese of Los Angeles. This huge, well-known institution that was well-known from the 1930s for sexually abusing children. In 2015, Katy Perry went to them and said, hey, here's $14.5 million, and $1 million of that is in cash right now up front for you, this organization who's been abusing children. Can I have that luxury property mansion that you're selling? And it's like the settlement, you guys, if you search Archdiocese of Los Angeles, there's a whole Wikipedia page that goes all the way through it from the 1930s to the present day and explains how all of these churches covered and protected all of these abusers. More than 300 known sexual abusers were being protected in this archdiocese. Unbelievable. And this is who Katy Perry went to in 2015. And she was involved in this lawsuit with them until 2018. There's no way you don't know that these are sexual abusers. And she didn't give a shit because she wanted a luxury property. So nuns aside, her even going to these people in the first place, the second she went to buy that property and she saw who owned it and who the money was going to go to, Katy Perry should have never, ever, ever engaged in that sale. But Katy Perry doesn't care about anyone but Katy Perry. And remember, she also approached the archdiocese so she could go around paying the nuns. The nuns got screwed out of money that they rightfully were owed, and these women were in like the last legs of their life. Nope, Katy Perry gave the money straight to a bunch of pedophiles and sexual abusers who have a whole Wikipedia page about their pedophilia and sex abuse. Moving on, because no Katy Perry conversation needs me to explain more about Catholic child abuse, but what you do need me to explain is her relationship with Jeff Bezos. Bezos, of course, is the billionaire CEO and inventor of Amazon, who in 2000, I didn't realize it was this long ago, launched his spaceflight and aerospace manufacturing company, Blue Origin. Now, Blue Origin is where Katy Perry and Bezos are tied together, and that is where their relationship first came under scrutiny, because in 2025, Katy, along with a slew of other semi-celebrity women like Lauren Sanchez and Oprah's girlfriend Gail, took a ride to space, quote unquote. I've got to start doing videos with this so you guys can see the giant quotations that I'm doing. They took a ride to space in 2025 on Blue Origin's newest space tourism. Most of you will probably remember this because the memes were epic. The whole thing was marketed as women in space, which is a reference that most of you are probably going to be too young to get, but the whole thing with Blue Origins and Katy Perry going up into quote-unquote space was described as this feminist first and this like exploration experience, and they put them in these tight little jumpsuits with their titties out. And Katy especially, she comes back from this whole stunt, right, babbling like a fool, like a narcissist who just hallucinated on LSD in the desert. And the thing was, though, the women didn't even go to space. They didn't go to space. They went they went up into the atmosphere. That's it. They didn't go into space. They didn't leave the atmosphere. There was no re-entry, which if you want to be scared out of your britches today, go on YouTube and look up re-entry from space videos. It's like, listen to the astronauts describe it. It's horrifying. It is the most terrifying thing. They should just make a horror film that's just re-entry over and over and over. But anyway, these Katy Perry did not go into space. She and the other bimbos did not go into space, okay? They basically did that Concorde flight from the early 2000s where they drive them up and down and they feel like they're weightless for a few minutes at a time. So Katy's part in this scam is particularly memorable because she comes back and she goes, I can't believe I've been to space. I never knew what love was until now. She's a mother, mind you, with a fiance at home when she says this. She finally knows love because she took a plane ride. And it just becomes telling, right? Because this whole thing is not only a scam, but it's positioning her so that she can rub elbows with one of the biggest evils in the corporate world. Because Bezos, of course, has faced a number of allegations in recent years, especially in regards to his employment practices, work environments of the people who work in facilities. They just had someone in an Amazon facility that dropped dead and they wouldn't let anybody give him help. Like, horrific. There's also like antitrust behavior that people have alleged. There's undeniable exploitation of the American government and tax system, which helps Bezos earn $2,700 a second. Here's what's really interesting, though, because I was like, okay, well, she's working with like a climate destroyer. Okay. But this is like the first thing where there's no sexual assault allegations, right? Wrong. Turns out you just got to dig a little bit and you find out that Blue Origins, specifically Blue Origins, the one that organized this whole sham space flight, this company that was started by Bezos in 2000, it's like his baby. Turns out in 2021, they had a huge scandal for sexual assault, sexual harassment, like women in the workplace being treated absolutely horrifically. Absolutely horrifically. In 2021, there was a letter that was published. It was like 14 or 15 women who worked or had worked at Blue Origin's facility. And they described a horrific environment led by men who were basically just allowed to do whatever they want. There was allegations of sexual harassment, discrimination against women, minority employees. And in this letter, they said Bezos knew about all of it, protected it, covered it up, didn't care about women, yada, 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 yada. Of all the Bezos companies Katy could have worked for, she could have done an Amazon advert, but somehow, Katy ends up doing advertising for the Bezos company that's most closely associated with sexual allegations. How is that? How are you marketing for a company that's got sexual allegations, sexual harassment allegations? How are you then working with a producer that's got those allegations, and you have an ex-husband with those allegations, and you yourself have these allegations? Like how many rape fires, like how much rape smoke do we need for a rape fire? You know what I mean? There's literally never been so much smoke around an alleged fire in the history of the world. Like I have not seen this many like sexually aggressive, potentially problematic rapist type people, allegedly rapist type people, since the Epstein list, my dudes. Now, with all of this laid out on the table, the timeline, the shady connections, the questionable ethics, I want you to stop now. The two of us will just stop right here and let's look at the whole of the pattern. Because if you put together Katy's timeline, all the stunts she pulled, the dubious people traced like rings around her, then I believe that there is something specific looking us in the face. And you probably already know what I'm talking about. Narcissism. And not just any kind of narcissism, though. Like a simmering, potentially malingering, malignant type that is masked with an almost sociopathic precision. And here's what I'm talking about specifically. And remember, I am an NLP MP. It took me over a year to get that certification. Then I have multiple professional diplomas, which also took me years to get, including a diploma in developmental psychology. And with all of that, plus 2 decades of experience in surviving narcissistic abuse, I have a little bit of perspective, right? And so here's what I see as far as narcissism and Katy Perry. Number one, a sense of entitlement. Narcissistic people, that's one of the big surface things that you can kind of look for in a truly narcissistic people. They're completely entitled. They think they should have what they want just simply because they want it. Not because they've worked hard, not because they've proven anything, that they're like good at that thing or they've done what they said they've done. They just think it should be theirs because they're the most important, special person in the world. And I think we've seen that with Katy. I mean, just look at the way she's used the court system to attack nuns, to attack that veteran who didn't want to sell her a house. She's very happy to bully people with the court system. And to me, that comes back to entitlement. Katy wants those things and she decides she should have them, even though fighting for them will ruin her public image. It might ruin her reputation. It might cost way more money than it should. She doesn't care because she wants what she wants, and once she wants it, she believes it should be hers. And I think that you also see entitlement in the way Katy Perry allegedly treats other people's bodies. I mean, showing someone's genitals to a crowd of people, she felt entitled to Josh Kloss's body. She felt entitled in that moment to show him, to expose his body to other people, because she went, I'm the most important thing here. All I'm thinking about is me. Let's show his penis to people. I think that would be funny. That's entitlement. Next up, insecurity. Any narcissist is fundamentally insecure. It doesn't matter what type of narcissist they are, grandiose, soft, covert, whatever it is. All narcissists are insecure. It's why they have to create this incredibly fragile image that they project onto the world. They have this distinct sense of insecurity. That the grandiosity, delusion, all of that is to cover up their insecurity. And to me, when I see Katy Perry and the way she moves, that's what I see. To me, especially in these last couple of years when she's working with Dr. Luke and suing nuns and just all this kind of stuff, to me, it's desperate. And that last pathetic tour after her space flight, it screamed of desperation to be the popular girl which you also really see if you go and look up like the old YouTube backstage videos of her. She's so obnoxious. She's like Kim Kardashian in high school, so obnoxious. She wants all attention on her all the time, and she gets more and more and more obnoxious to get it as you watch these videos. Desperation, that's what Smack's like, and her clinging to this like, I have to be 20 and I have to be the prettiest girl in the room. Am I pretty? Do you think I'm pretty? Am I skinny? It's like, girl, you're a mother in your 40s. Like, what happened to respectable, like, Jewel kind of music? You know, like, you don't have to be a sex obsessed pop star forever who's like running around in stripper clothes. You can be a 40-year-old mother and fiance and like maybe try something more artsy than just like pandering sex robot. I don't know. I just think Katy Perry, after like how many decades in the music industry as a mega super A-list celebrity, I think she could do better. She could elevate herself more than grinding on a stage at 40, maxed out on Ozempic shots. But that comes down to insecurity, right? She needs to be the prettiest girl in the room, probably because she's a narcissist. Now, thirdly, when you're looking for these narcissistic people, you're looking for a sense of delusion. Narcissists don't see themselves realistically ever. Nothing they think about themselves or how they should be treated or how they are being treated is rooted in a sense of reality. I always say this, like, my mother was always the smartest person in the room. No matter, you could have been in a room with a Nobel-winning scientist, and on the drive home, my mother would have said, that Nobel-winning scientist was a fucking idiot. I knew more than him on fucking physics. If you listen to Katy speak about herself and the mundane things that she does, I mean, Katy Perry, if you asked her, like, what's your favorite cup of tea? She would go, I had a transformative cup of Earl Grey. And let me tell you, I thought about life differently after that Earl Grey. Bitch, you had a cup of tea. Calm down. You really, really see this. When she came down from space, she was so high on her own supply that she just like vomited out this word salad. It's one of like the big narcissism tells for me is the way they talk about themselves. You can see in their head that they think they're like Voltaire, and they'll say something like, sometimes sandwich bread is brown. And they think it's like a 12-year-old who's gotten high for the first time. They think it's prolific. They think it's amazing because they think that they're profound and amazing. And they're this prolific creator of all things good, and all words that they say are good. And it's just not in line with reality, where they actually just look like a mediocre or even like shitty human. I also think, again, you can look at these alleged sexual assaults. If Katy did indeed do these things like Ruby Rose, if that is true, if the thing with Ruby Rose is true, that to me is also delusion. Like, sexually assaulting someone by waking them up with your vagina on their face, to me says, I'm above the law, I'm a celebrity, nothing bad can ever happen to me, yeah. It's delusion to me. And then you have grandiosity. And grandiosity and narcissism isn't just I'm the greatest person who's ever lived, though you definitely get that. And sometimes you see that with Katy. But also on grandiosity with narcissists, what you see is I'm the biggest victim in the world, which Katy also loves to do, because immediately after she got such blowback over that space flight, immediately her PR people came out with this, poor Katy, people just hate women, and when women do space, people hate women more. It was just, it was so pathetic. And you'll see narcissists, they'll flip-flop between these two things very, very often. If they're in one space but they're people they look down on, then they will be the best person in the room and the smartest person in the room, and they'll be very overt and braggadocious. But the second that they think they've lost power in some way, they revert to victimhood to try to manipulate from that angle, especially female narcissists. And again, it's grandiosity, it's manipulation, it's all of the above. And last but not least, a lack of empathy. Narcissists clinically, this is the biggest thing, is that narcissists clinically, they lack empathy, okay? Some of them will perform cognitive empathy when they know that's what's expected out of them. So they want to manipulate someone, they know that person expects to see empathy. They can perform it, but they don't feel it, okay? And you can tell they don't feel it because when they're in a situation where they're not trying to impress somebody or they're not trying to control somebody, empathy's out the window, right? The way they treat servers, the way they treat homeless people, the way they might treat or talk about immigrants, the way they might treat or talk about people who are of different races. Like, that's when you see the lack of empathy, right? Is when they're around someone who can't benefit them, who doesn't benefit them, or who they think is beneath them. And that's when you see the lack of empathy. And I think we see that with Katy, 100%. Katy's experiences with Justin Bieber, like, you're going to grab you're going to grope an 18-year-old who we know is just, since he was like a baby, that was happening to him. We've seen it on videos so much, and you're going to put yourself in there with Jenny McCarthy and grope on a child. It's gross, right? And it shows a lack of empathy. a lack of empathy. And then we look at Blue Origin. Okay, look at Blue Origin 2021. Huge story that was absolutely everywhere. Katy's PR people definitely knew about this, which means she knew about it. But 2021, Blue Origin, stories everywhere. Blue Origin, women are being sexually harassed and fired and kept out of growth and marginalized. Katy goes and works with them. She goes and works with them. So it shows that she's not spending time deconstructing capitalism. She's not spending time listening to, trying to help environmentalists. She doesn't have working class people around her that are telling her this. She doesn't have any intersectional feminists around her at all who are teaching her about any of this. None of it. She's clearly in an isolated right-wing world surrounded by alleged sexual abusers, and she doesn't care how her actions and her money affect other people, because she'll sue you into oblivion. She'll sue you until you're dead if it means getting what she wants. And there are more signs. There are more signs, but I think you get the big idea that I'm kind of painting here. I believe that Katy Perry is a narcissistic person, and like many A-list celebrities in Hollywood, okay, I don't think she's unique. I think she's one of many. And I don't know if it's a chicken or an egg scenario, right? But there's clearly something in the water that both attracts and encourages and rewards narcissistic traits to thrive in the environment that she's in. And thrive in the cesspool, Katy certainly has. But I wonder if this isn't our chance to change that. If 2026 isn't our year to finally raise up the right people instead of the wrong people. Because let me tell you something. Lifting up people like Katy Perry, swelling her pockets, it's not just bad for you and me and society. It's bad for her too. Because do you know what happens to narcissistic women? Do you really want to know what the end looks like for narcissistic women? Because I can tell you from firsthand experience what it looks like. They die alone, like my mother did, with the police busting out the windows of her home to crawl in and pull her rigor mortis body off of the bed. Okay? That's how it ends for narcissistic women. And Katy Perry, across decades, has consistently displayed selfish, empathyless, reckless, and even harmful and dangerous behavior. Allegedly. It's an established pattern, further doubled down on by the company she chooses to keep, a coterie of men, each of who can be quickly traced back to inappropriate sexual allegations, both directly and indirectly, either right to them or to one of their companies. So what are we going to do? Or what are you going to do if you're a Katy Perry fan? Because if we continue to engage with Katy Perry, if we continue to go to her shows, stream her music, buy her merch, we're putting money in her pocket. And when we do that, if she is the narcissist that I believe she might be, we co-sign and empower more of the harm that circles her like a bad smell. Do you want to be a flying monkey for Katy Perry? Do you want to be a flying monkey for anyone that you suspect is a narcissist? Are those the kind of people you want to give money to? Is that who you want to be around? Is that who you want to be like? Is that who you want in charge of the world with power and money? For me, it's an easy choice, but it's not an easy choice for everyone. I get that. And at the end of the day, it's down to each one of us, one-on-one. Only we can each make that choice for ourselves. Whew, and that's it. Woo-wee, wow. My God, that was a haul, you guys. I've never wanted to do that much work on Katy Perry. I've never wanted to know that much work on Katy Perry in my life. That was so long. That was so long. I never want to do that again. But these conversations are important, and we do need to keep having them, and we need to have more of them. So that's what we're going to do here each week, one toxic celebrity at a time. If you love this episode, please head over to patreon.com where you can listen to more Scandal Queens episodes ad-free and early. I'm working really hard to make sure you get these episodes at least a week early so you can shit talk at the watering can before anyone else. So please, if you love Scandal Queens and you want to see it grow, head over there. I post more than just the podcast. I got videos and like opinions and all kinds of stuff. So head over to patreon.com, join my growing community. It means the world to me. This is really gaining some momentum. It's gaining some traction. I'm so excited. So please head over to patreon.com/Nuska if you would like to join. If pop culture isn't really your thing, but you're dying to know more about narcissism and, because I am an NLP-MP and I've got these psychology diplomas and I do psych breakdowns and narcissism breakdowns still, you can head over to Substack where I post weekly essays and guides on narcissism, narcissistic abuse, society, relationships, you name it. Just go to therealebjohnson.substack.com. And for everything else, you can follow me on social media. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. All of it's the same at The Real E.B. Johnson. I am also, oh my God, you guys, I am so close to being monetized on YouTube. So if you could please head over to YouTube, follow me there. I'm just shy of 7,000 subscribers the last time I checked. If you could watch a few of my videos, it would help me so much. I'm so close to being monetized there. The podcast episodes are there, so you can also listen to those if that is easier for you, both of my podcasts. And last but not least, if you're enjoying Scandal Queens, please head over to Apple and leave a quick 5-star review. It doesn't cost you anything but a few minutes of your time. Not even that. I think it literally takes you like a minute and a half or less to do it. And it really helps me get this podcast in front of more people. I work really hard on it, and I want to help people deconstruct narcissism everywhere they see it in their lives, especially this celebrity narcissism. So please head over to Apple and give a 5-star review if you love this episode. And that's it. We did it. That's Katy Perry done in under an hour. Just. So that's it for this week. Thank you again for listening. I'm going to be back next week with a super tasty little morsel for you. But until next time, let me know what you think. Find me on social media. You can click the little button at the top of the description here. Send me a little texty poopsie. But until next time, I'll see you out there. Keep your secrets close and your receipts closer. Stay scandalous, queens.